There was a lot of promising data on it and nothing really suggesting that it wouldn't be that effective for non-diabetic patients until recently, to my knowledge. So we just need to keep an eye on it. But for now, I am continuing to take it, and it is going to stay on this list. What's going on, guys? It's Jacob, Sunday Lifters. Welcome back to the channel. For those who have been here before, it's been a minute since I was last here, and I do apologise for the lack of content over the past month. Just ended up taking April off without ever intending to. Went on holiday and just kind of never got out of holiday mode when I got back. But we're in May now, so I want to get this content going again. I thought I'd start off by doing something that is hopefully of interest to a lot of people, and that is a simplified anti-aging stack. The reason I've called it a simplified anti-aging stack is because these things can get really complicated. You can go down so many different avenues in terms of like DNA, you know, just staving off sort of chronic or age-related diseases, neurological stuff. So when I say anti-aging, I'm sort of speaking directly to the people who want to look more youthful and you know, just potentially extend their lifespan, longevity sort of stuff, not necessarily how to stave off disease, although with everything there is always crossover with this sort of stuff, guys. I will say as a sort of precursor to this video that as ever, nothing beats diet, good diet, exercise and fasting as well in terms of longevity and health going forward. So we'll, you know, this is a supplement stack video, that's why I'm not going to cover those things. You know this is the basics, although there will be a little bit of crossover again with that sort of stuff. Without further ado, let's get into the video. If you could just drop this a like, a comment and consider subscribing if you've not already, helps the channel grow and it is hugely appreciated. So the boring stuff first, let's start with vitamins. Vitamin D is going to be on my list, and it is the thing I'm starting with. Why vitamin D? There is a lot of data now that sort of backs up the correlation between low vitamin D levels and earlier mortality. It seems particularly to play a role in cardiovascular related diseases or the development of those things. What's the best way to get vitamin D? Of course, it is the sunshine. We you know, synthesize vitamin D out of the sort of UV rays that the sun emits. However, in a lot of sort of the northern eastern parts of Europe, UK included in that, we're not getting enough sunshine year round, particularly in the winters when the days are very short. So it is my recommendation that if you live in those parts of the world, you know, where you're not getting sunshine a lot, you do supplement vitamin D. Around 600 international units I use a day is a good ballpark to work off for most adults. The next supplement is NR or nicotinamide riboside, or its counterpart, which we'll discuss in tandem, which is NMN, which is nicotinamide, I think it's B-nicotinamide mononucleotide. I think that's correct. So in order to know why I'd recommend taking one of those two molecules, and again we'll go into both and you can decide which you would like to take if you do decide to take one. So in our bodies we have a molecule called NAD. NAD is a really important molecule in terms of sort of DNA repair, you know, methylation processes, you know, it's got some links to the regulation of our metabolism, all of, you know, gene expression, all of these things that are really important and closely related with aging. Now, the thing about NAD is, and the problem we face as humans is, as we age, in direct correlation, the older we get, the less NAD we produce naturally. Now, there could be a lot of reasons for the, well, there is probably a lot of reasons for the depletion in NAD as we age, one of which would be that we have these things called senescent cells, and we'll go into what they are in a bit more detail later. But senescent cells, sorry, fucking hell, that's a lot of it. It's hard to say. Senescent cells produce a thing called CD38, and that is essentially, again, we'll go in more detail perhaps, but I'm trying to keep this brief. CD38 does decrease NAD. Another a potential reason is because of the fact that we produce less of a molecule called NANPT. Regardless of the reason we make less NAD, the point is we do. Now, what can we do about that, if anything? Well, we can't supplement NAD directly because it's a big molecule and we struggle to absorb it. But what we can do is take a precursor, either NR, nicotinamide riboside, or NMN, nicotinamide mononucleotide. You've got options, but both of those are pretty well absorbed in studies, and we'll go again a bit more into that shortly, but people tend to prefer one over the other. In rodent studies, for example, NMN has been shown to sort of mitigate age-related decline in the test subjects. NR, however, has much more human data backing it up, even though NMN it's a really tricky one, to be honest. They both seem to have benefits and pitfalls. Like I say, NMN has a lot less human research, whereas NR has more, but NMN looks more promising in the rodents than NR did. There was a study just done in April of 22, so like 2 weeks ago, that was studying NMN and its effect on humans. However, Dr. Brad Stanfield just did a video where he sort of went over that whole paper and pointed out a number of flaws with it. So as much as we all want it to be a success in the longevity sphere, we have to be realistic, and at the moment there's still not a lot of human data backing up NMN. If you have had cancer, have cancer, or are somewhat genetically predisposed to the development of certain cancers because of your family history, it is my recommendation that you do not supplement NR or NMN, and we'll go into why now. A heightened level of NAD in some rodent studies did seem to proliferate cancerous lesions, or the development of those cancerous lesions within the test subjects or the mice in that study. Now, they would have developed these cancers anyway because these mice were genetically engineered to develop the cancers. However, what seemed to happen was that NAD sped that process up or proliferated it somewhat. With all of that in mind, the reason that boosting NAD via supplementation of NR or NMN, thus the end result being the increased level of systemic NAD, the reason that is bad for cancer development is the exact same reason it's good for the sort of anti-aging effect. It's because the NAD molecules sort of reinvigorate and sort of give all of the cells it comes into contact with like a bit of an oomph to get them doing what they're responsible for. It doesn't matter whether it's a fully functional cell or a cell that is sort of dysfunctional, i.e. something that's predisposed to cancer development, or becoming a senescent cell, or both. So a senescent cell is basically like a dead cell. It's like a zombie cell. And what happens, they're a bit of a paradox basically, because the cell turns senescent to essentially stop it from endlessly splitting and proliferating and therefore causing cancer. However, just the fact that it turns senescent, it creates a sort of environment for the cells around it that can be somewhat cancerous. Senescent cells create an environment where cancer development is prone purely from their sort of their interference or changing of the cellular micro environment basically. So bringing this back to NAD, NR and NMN. If you remove senescent cells from your body before you take these supplements, you're basically dramatically decreasing the risk of something bad being proliferated via the increased NAD, i.e. senescent cells and cancerous cells. Now there's a number of methods you can do this. Number one method with the most backing and by far the most I'd say effective, but requires a lot of willpower, is a prolonged fast, i.e. 5 days or maybe slightly longer. It depends how aggressive you want to go. I'd say 5 days is probably a good benchmark, and this is a 5-day period where you just drink water, and by the end of those 5 days you'll be in a pretty aggressive state of autophagy where any dead or weak cells, senescent cells, will die. You could also look into supplementing things like fisetin or quercetin. Also keep your CD38 levels in check by supplementing something like apigenin. I'm not going to go into quercetin, fisetin or apigenin on this video in aid of keeping it sort of short. Maybe I'll cover them in the future, but they also don't directly help with anti-aging. It's just the NAD that you get via the supplementation of NR or NMN that actually has this anti-aging effect. So that's what we're going to talk about here. If I was going to take one, I'd take NR, just because there's more data showing that in humans that is better for boosting NAD levels. However, if you want, some people do take NMN. I'm pretty sure David Sinclair takes NMN. So try both, see which you feel better on. They're both effective. Hydrolyzed collagen, 10 milligrams a day. Most people know the benefits of collagen, but just in case you don't, taking this is good for your skin, your hair, your nails, all the cosmetic stuff. It's going to keep you looking more youthful for longer. Don't think there's anything else to really say about that. It is just purely a sort of cosmetic thing as far as I'm aware. I'll be honest, I've not done loads and loads of research into collagen, but I'm pretty sure as well from what I did see, it's fine to just take orally. Hydrolyzed collagen is what I'd recommend, and like I say, 10 milligrams a day seems to be good. Metformin, this one's coming up again, and since I last spoke about metformin, quite a lot has happened with this, so maybe at some point I'll do a full video on that, but we will talk a little bit about some of those things here. Tend to always say, and I have spoke about in the past, I'll link the video so you can check it out, 500 milligrams of metformin a day seems to be a good sort of ballpark. If you don't know what metformin is, I invite you to check that video out, but just briefly, it's a sort of pre-diabetic and diabetic medicine that sort of stabilizes blood glucose levels and helps restore insulin sensitivity. In some studies, diabetic patients who were taking metformin actually had a greater life expectancy when in comparison to people who have never had diabetes in the first place, and that's pretty incredible. The intervention testing program did trial metformin and actually found that, in their testing, their results, and they are very, very credible, the organization, so they actually found it didn't increase life expectancy in those who were not diabetic. Now, there are a lot of other papers and data out there saying that metformin is very good for longevity in sort of numerous areas, but in an effort to be unbiased, what I will say is this: metformin is on a bit of a precipice right now. I think there was another recent paper that showed it had some and I need to look into this, and I haven't actually yet, guys, so just take everything with a pinch of salt, but I'm pretty sure it had some relation to particularly males having problems with or their children, I should say, having birth defects to do with their genitals, but I'm not entirely sure. I will look into this. I don't know how common it is, considering that literally millions of people are on metformin as a medication. I would still say there are a lot of benefits to metformin that, again, I'm not going to go over it all now because I've already covered it extensively in that video I linked earlier, and there are a lot of research papers that actually go against some of the things I've just said. So it's kind of a bit there was a lot of promising data on it and nothing really suggesting that it wouldn't be that effective for non-diabetic patients until recently, to my knowledge. So we just need to keep an eye on it, but for now I am continuing to take it, and it is going to stay on this list. It may be in the future that metformin is superseded by a different diabetic drug. There are a few things being looked at right now. One of those drugs is called acarbose or acebose. I'm not too sure how you say it, but when that was trialed in rodents by 3 independent labs in America, what they actually found was, in I believe it was in female mice, they had a sort of life extension of about 9%, and in the males I believe it was about 23%. I've just checked, in the females it was 5% and in the males it was 22%. SGLT2 inhibitors are also under the microscope right now as a sort of potential alternative to metformin. No doubt in the future, I'm keeping an eye on this. I'll stay sort of as much as I can up to date with the literature, and no doubt I'll do a video on them in future, and if I do swap metformin out for one of them two things, I'll let you know. Now this next one is mainly for the men, but it does have some relevancy to women, and the only reason it's more relevant to men is because women already make plenty of it. It is a molecule called 17-alpha estradiol. In one trial, the male participants actually saw a life expectancy increase of about 19%. We kind of know, or a lot of people know, excuse me, that women generally live longer than men, and one of the reasons, there's a lot of reasons for it, but one of the reasons is because of the protective benefits of estrogens. Now, the wonderful thing here is, gentlemen, that 17-alpha estradiol is a non-feminizing estradiol, i.e. you're not going to sort of get man tits, basically. Now, if you're a female, it's likely you've already got plenty of 17-alpha estradiol. However, in some studies in female mice, they actually saw a benefit in terms of their body weight and metabolism regulation from the sort of added 17-alpha estradiol, so it's worth looking into. Nearly there, guys, two more left. So the next one is a substance called TMG. TMG is trimethylglycine. Now, people who took about 4 to 6 grams of trimethylglycine a day saw a massive decrease in their homocysteine. Now, there's a few benefits of lower levels of homocysteine, one being that it frees up some methyl groups for your DNA to use in the methylation process. High levels of homocysteine in the blood is also an independent risk factor for the development of cardiovascular related diseases and possible heart attacks as well. Having more NAD via NR or NMN supplementation, like we spoke about earlier, can actually use up more methyl groups as well. So actually using TMG and NAD precursors together is a really good idea. And the last one is rapamycin. Rapamycin, you may be familiar with this if you saw my dog longevity video. Again, I'll link it up there because we did speak about it. As little as 1 milligram a week can be enough to increase a mammal's lifespan by 10 to 20%. Obviously it depends on the mammal, there's a lot of different results, but the fact is it always seems to increase lifespan by some percentage. The way it does this, again, just simplifying it really briefly, is through the inhibition of a sort of pathway in our body that is activated when we consume food, or particularly proteins, and that is called the Mtor Pathway, the mammalian target of rapamycin. So it was rapamycin literally sort of inspired the name of that nutrient sensing pathway in our body. The problem with rapamycin is it's a little bit more difficult to get hold of, especially here in the UK. It's a prescription only drug, but you can buy it online at some independent labs. It is an immunosuppressant, in high enough dosages. It's used in human clinical settings as an immunosuppressant, for example, when someone is having an organ transplant. So it's imperative you know the dosages you're taking. Like I say, 1 milligram a week is enough for most people, but do your own research on all of this stuff, guys. I'm just a guy on YouTube. So that is it for today's video, guys. I'm going to try and get more content out again, get back in the habit. If you did make it to the end of this video and you found it useful, please drop it a like, a comment, and consider subscribing. It's much appreciated. You can follow me on my social media as well. It's at Sunday Lifters on Instagram and Facebook. I'm considering getting Twitter again now. Elon's taking it over, my boy, bringing it back. I've heard it's going to be all right. or maybe not, who knows, but we'll see. You can also email me on sundaylifters@gmail.com for workout plans and coaching. Thank you very much again, guys, and I'll see you back here again real soon.